Yeah, we would like to get back there. It's on our list.
Good afternoon. I'm holding this up on Mother's Day because mine is on silent and it's blowing up via vibration. So everyone, do the same. Thank you. And anything, you start singing. Yeah.
Mama, take this brush off of me, 'cause I can't use it anymore. It's getting dark, too dark to see. I feel like I'm knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, 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 knocking on heaven's door. Mama put that count to the ground. I can't shoot them anymore. There's a long black cloud coming down. I feel like I'm knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, 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 knocking on heaven's door. Mama put that gun to the ground. I can't shoot him anymore. There's a long black cloud coming down. I feel like I'm knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, 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 knocking on heaven's door. Thank you so much. Gracias.
We're lucky to have fur. Good afternoon, and welcome to the new air-conditioned Lake Chapala Unitarian, and yes, I would like the script larger, please. Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I'm Priscilla Taylor. I'm today's service associate for this growing, journeying, and it just all went away, and it's coming back. Down a little bit. Nope, that's there. Today's growing, journeying community. All right, Reverend Matt, you need to scroll up. That's the wrong direction. Okay, we'll be presenting our message today. It'd be nice if we just memorized this, huh? We welcome all of you to our service, especially those of you who are searching for a spiritual home. May your exploration in this community lead you to deeper insights and connection. Our opening words this afternoon are by Reverend Michelle Collins. Come, let us gather in this sacred space where imagination is a soil rich with possibility. And I've got some dance music going there. Oh, it's going to be one of those days. Let us plant seeds of wonder, water them with curiosity, and tend them with community. May our minds open, our hearts awaken, and together, may we nurture visions that grow beyond today. Come, let us worship and imagine anew. Now we have some announcements. If you are new and would like to receive our newsletter and other emails, please talk to a member of the Welcome Team or write to us at info@lcuuf.org. Any members of the Welcome Team here today, please stand up. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Now, a special welcome to our visitors. If you are visiting with us for the first time or have returned or reconnected with us after a long absence, we invite you to say your name and tell us where you're from. If you're on Zoom, please introduce yourself in the chat box and it'll be read aloud in the fellowship. We'll start with the people in the room. And it's time to, it is going to be one of those days.
We're working this out as we go along.
Are there any visitors today? You look not familiar.
What am I supposed to say?
Whatever you like.
Well,
Hi.
within limits.
My name's Maureen. I've been here in this area for 11, almost 12 years. And friends of mine told me about this church, or whatever you want to call it, and I decided to come.
Okay.
Welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
Anyone else?
All right. And any new people on Zoom? The mic? Nada. Okay. And back to scrolling. It's not always like this. Welcome to our visitor and any newcomer, both in person and on Zoom. Here at LCUUF, we offer a wide variety of services on various topics presented by our members, Reverend Matt, and outside guests also. We hope you'll return to sample this variety of thought and belief. Our chalice lighting words today are by Deanne Oliva. We light this chalice for mothers and mothering, to celebrate those who have taken on the task of nurturing a young one, baby, child, or youth into adulthood, to celebrate those who have nourished the light of truth and compassion in growing minds and hearts, to celebrate those who have committed time, money, energy to the growth of others in this world. We light this chalice to celebrate and hold dear this flame of love. Now, having lit our chalice, let us sing these words together. I'm not starting. The music's supposed to start. Or we could sing without them. Kindle this light of celebration for the life that we share. And you're up.
So today is Mother's Day in Canada and the USA, and yesterday, May 10th, was Dia de los Madres in Mexico. I almost said muertes. That wouldn't have been kind. So I would like to note the interesting connection between Unitarianism and Mother's Day. The original call for an annual Mother's Day was made by Julia Ward Howe in 1872. Now, you might recognize that name. Oh, we've got some alerts. Better find out what that's about. Howe wrote the lyrics to the Battle Hymn of the Republic. Some of you in the North may recognize that. We who grew up in the South, not so much. But she was also a Unitarian, and she had converted from Calvinism. In 1870, she wrote what became known as the Mother's Day Proclamation, which was a response to the horrors of the U.S. Civil War and the Franco-Prussian War. In the proclamation, she asks women of the world to join together in peace. 2 years later, she called for an annual Mother's Day for Peace to be celebrated on June 2nd of every year. This occurred for a few years but fizzled out. However, Ann Jarvis, whose mother had worked with Howe, went on to found the Mother's Day in May that we commemorate today. So while we celebrate Mother's Day around the world in all the various ways that we do, let's not forget the origin story, the creation of peace in the world. And so we'll now do a responsive reading, a little back and forth reading, but I'm going to let Priscilla lead this.
Okay. So you'll see, I have a different screen that I stare at than you do. We'll read this responsively. In other words, I'll read part, and then you'll read a part. I'll read the white part, and you will read the fuchsia, magenta? That, yeah. The other color. The other color. The color. Arise then, women of this day. Arise, all women who have hearts, whether our baptism be of water or of tears. Say firmly, we will not have great questions decided by irrelevant agencies. Our husbands will not come to us, reeking with carnage for caresses and laws. Our sons shall not be taken from us to unlearn all that we have been able to teach them of charity, mercy, and patience. We, the women of one country, will be too tender of those of another country to allow our sons to be trained to injure their elders. From the bosom of the devastated earth, a voice goes up with our own. It says, disarm, disarm. The sword of murder is not the balance of justice. Blood does not wipe out dishonor, nor violence indicate possession. As men have often forsaken the plow and the anvil at the summons of war, let women now leave all that may be left of home for a great and earnest day of council. Let them meet first as women to bewail and commemorate the dead. Let them solemnly take counsel with each other as to the means whereby the great human family can live in peace. And each bearing after her own time the sacred impress, not of Caesar, but of God. May it be so. And then, opening hymn, 134.
I hope we have a recording.
I'm not singing that one. I'm not even humming that one. So no music? Pointing at me doesn't tell me what's happening. It really went well yesterday at rehearsal. I don't even know what that means, but I'll buy it. I've been counseled that Mercury must be in retrograde. That's the explanation for this fun day. It was a nice song.
I love it when Matt says, oh, yeah, oh, no, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm doing this from the back. So we recognize that Mother's Day, y'all can see what I'm doing now. We're all just reading this stuff off of the screen. We aren't like memorizing this stuff. We recognize that Mother's Day has become a worldwide holiday, even as its meaning has shifted. Our opening hymn, which we will sing in a moment, acknowledges that worldwide nature and recalls the desire for peace, as well as the underlying aspects needed for world peace. Our opening hymn is called Our World is One World. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join us in singing. And this is a recording of one of our beloved members, Linda Jessen, singing this with us. The words will be on the screen, so hopefully we can follow along and sound good.
It was a little out of order.
Our world is one world. What touches one affects us all. The seas that watch us round about, the clouds that cover us, the rains that fall. Our world is one world. The thoughts we think affect us all. The way we build our attitudes with love or hate we make, a bridge or wall. Our world is one world. Its ways of wealth affect us all. The way we spend, the way we share, who are the rich or poor, who stand or fall. Our world is one world, just like a ship that bears us all, where fear and greed make manly moves, but where our hearts can hear a different call.
Okay. This is the time in our service where we can briefly share our personal joys, sorrows, and our milestones, because there is power in the sharing as we hold each other in community. Just a sentence or two is enough. We'll start with the folks in the room, and that will give those on Zoom a chance to type joys and sorrows into the chat to be read out loud. I'm being distracted by, there we go. Okay.
I'm David, and I've been away for 6 weeks, and it's so good, such a joy to be home.
Welcome. Welcome back.
I'm Tim. I've got a couple things that I'm very happy about today. One is he and I were talking about the new Pope, and it just turns out that he spent part of his childhood in Western Michigan, where I grew up. That's not what I'm joyful about, but I think he's just the right person for what we need, so I'm very grateful for that. And then just happenstance, this morning went out for a walk early on, listening to some glorious music as I was strolling around, just filled with a sense of joy for life and all the life around. Ahihik waking up. We are blessed, are we not? And yeah.
Others?
I'm Trudy, and I have a joy that my son is arriving on Wednesday, and it will be wonderful to see him, and it will be wonderful to have him here next Saturday.
I have two. One is for all of us. I'm so grateful we have air conditioning. Thank you, Trudy. I always sit under the fan, but it's nice to have the whole room cool now. My other joy is anytime my 13-year-old grandson sends me a message, "Hey, Mimi, you want to chat?" Even though I hadn't got showered, dressed, or eaten breakfast, I said, "Of course," because that's what you do when 13-year-olds call you.
Yep.
Well, I'm one of the original group of this fellowship, and my heart just skips a beat when I walk around and see these faces that I've known for so many years. And when I walked in this morning and saw the beautiful new grass and the birds singing and see all these wonderful faces that I've experienced life with. Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
I'll have a quick one. I don't need the mic. I have a mic. I'm just sharing the joy that on Thursday we get to head north to see grandson perform in Boston. And then we fly to San Diego to see the other grandson and our daughter perform also in an opera. And my sorrow is that I will not be here. We will not be here for a couple of very important events coming next week. I hope it's wonderful for you. Okay. Were there any joys or sorrows on Zoom?
No, nothing. Thank you.
Okay. Time for the care candle. And this candle, from our care team, we light to represent the joys and sorrows spoken and witnessed today, as well as those we hold in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. Let us share a moment of silence. Okay, it's time to share the baskets. As we know, the work of our fellowship within these walls and beyond takes our time, treasure, and talents. Now is the time in our service for our offering. As we pass the baskets, if you are new here today, or you're struggling to hold things together, please let the basket pass you by. Your presence is more than enough and is a gift to us. Please know that we give all of the money collected at the service to organizations that provide aid and support to our lakeside community. For May, we will be donating the basket to Poco a Poco San Pedro Itzican. Poco a Poco supports youth and women in the San Pedro Itzican and Mezcala areas east of Chapala. More info about Poco a Poco is on the monitor. Almost done. We take to heart these words by Kristen Collins. We give to remind ourselves how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sacred space. We give with the faith that together we have enough. May this offering sustain and grow the life and work of this congregation. May we give in love and in hope for a better world. We have a short video, part of a TED Talk by inventor Simone Giertz. Coming up.
Oh, hello. My name is Simone. You know how people tell you, if you get nervous when on stage, picture people in the audience naked. Like it's this thing that's supposed to make you feel better. But I was thinking, picturing all of you naked in 2018 feels kind of weird and wrong. Like we're working really hard on moving past stuff like that. So we need a new method of dealing with if you get nervous on stage. And I realized that what I'd really like is that I can look at you as much as you're looking at me, just to like even things out a little bit. So if I had way more eyeballs, then we'd all be really comfortable, right? So in preparation for this talk, I made myself a shirt. It's googly eyes. It took me 14 hours and 227 googly eyes to make this shirt. And being able to look at you as much as you're looking at me is actually only half of the reason I made this. The other half is being able to do this. So I do a lot of things like this. I see a problem and I invent some sort of solution to it. For example, brushing your teeth. Like it's this thing we all have to do. It's kind of boring and nobody really likes it. If there were any 7-year-olds in the audience, they'd be like, yes! So what about if you had a machine that could do it for you? I call it the toothbrush helmet. So my toothbrush helmet is recommended by 0 out of 10 dentists, and it definitely did not revolutionize the world of dentistry, but it did completely change my life. Because I finished making this toothbrush helmet 3 years ago, and after I finished making it, I went into my living room, and I put up a camera, and I filmed a 7-second clip of it working. And by now, this is a pretty standard modern-day fairy tale of girl posting on the internet takes the girl by storm. Thousands of men voyage into the comment sections to ask for her hand in marriage. She ignores all of them, starts a YouTube channel, and keeps on building robots. Since then, I've carved out this little niche for myself on the internet as an inventor of useless machines. Because as we all know, the easiest way to be at the top of your field is to choose a very small field. So I run a YouTube channel about my machines, and I've done things like cutting hair with drones, to a machine that helps me wake up in the morning, to this machine that helps me chop vegetables. And I often get asked if I think I'm ever going to build something useful, and maybe someday I will. But the way I see it, I already have, because I've built myself this job. And it's something that I could never have planned for, or that I could... It's something that I could never have planned for. Instead, it happened just because I was enthusiastic about what I was doing, and I was sharing that enthusiasm with other people. To me, there's the true beauty of making useless things, because it's this acknowledgement that you don't always know what the best answer is. And it turns off that voice in your head that tells you that you know exactly how the world works. And maybe a toothbrush helmet isn't the answer, but at least you're asking the question. Thank you.
So with that warming up, I'd like to invite you to do a little exercise. Let's start with a little exercise, if you're willing, a little exercise in imagination. Now, I would like us to form groups of 4 to 8 people. Now, I know that's going to be tricky in here with these heavy chairs. So it might be easier for some of you to just stand up and form little circles. For others, it might be, well, I mean, it could be worse. We could be outside in the sun and the heat. But form little groups. And if you prefer, you might just lean on the back of the chair so you can face the other folks and form little groups of 4 to 8 people. On Zoom, and I know this is the hardest part, getting little groups and getting together. On Zoom, we're going to do breakouts. I'm going to ask Jesus to create several breakout rooms after I give you the instructions. So, yes, right. So, here's how this is going to work. We're going to go around one by one in your little circles. And here in the room, each group is going to start with the person nearest to the door. On Zoom, it's a little trickier. If you could all turn on your participants lists when you're in your breakout rooms, then people can go in the order of the list. Somebody who probably knows a little bit more about Zoom can call out the next person in your group. And the slide up there shows you where the the participant list will show up. So that's the other hard part. Who starts? Now for the exercise. I want you to imagine that there is an object in the middle of your circle. Or if you're on Zoom, in the middle of your virtual circle. Now, the object doesn't have to be a real object. It could be imaginary. Now, the first person just describes one detail about this object. Just a word or phrase. Then the next person will add another detail. The only rule is that you cannot contradict what somebody else has already said. So if the first person says it is blue, you cannot say it is green, although you could say it has green stripes. So continue around the circle, and we can keep going several times until we've run out of time. And so I'm going to give you up to 5 minutes. So go ahead and start, and we'll hit the Zoom breakouts.
We have an
Sorry. We have a Yeah, just a poco. So let's just take another minute or so. Okay. So maybe just another 30 seconds or so. Yeah. So let's take a few moments now. Let's take a few moments to reflect. Take a few moments to reflect on what this experience was like. Not so much on exactly what you came up with, but how the process was. What did you notice about the conversation that your group was having about this imaginary object? And I'll give you a couple moments to think about that, and then we'll take a few comments from folks. So first, let me just give you a little pause. Oh. Oh, yeah. Okay. Let's take a couple of comments, maybe one or two from a couple of groups. Anybody want to describe very quickly and roughly, what kind of object you came up with? Okay, Chris back here.
All I can say is you better be afraid. It's big, it's long, it flies, it crawls, it's got a blinking eye. But the process went from us building on the object to building on what the object caused, the panic, etc.
All right. And anybody on Zoom, just want to maybe get them set up while I take another one in the room.
We had a pretty good size green, sparkly, frog-like creature with 5 wheels and 5 eyes, and it swallowed 2 UUs and took them to the outer reaches of the universe, where he saw others just like him, came back to Earth and said, I'm going back and find a mate.
Okay. And then we had somebody on Zoom, I think.
Yes. Our group was small, just Colleen and I. And it was interesting how we quickly circled around to imagining the same thing.
Very nice. So really quickly, any observations about the process, about the experience of working on this playing with this idea?
What I noticed is we went from one fantastic thing to the next fantastic thing, and I don't know if we were trying to top each other or whatever, but the range of fantastic things was beyond my imagination.
I think one of the things that showed is that we were essentially a little shy.
Anybody on Zoom?
No.
Okay.
we were having a great time and coming up with all these fanciful ideas, and then suddenly it was my turn, and out of the blue, I had like performance anxiety or something and couldn't think up, the best new thing. It was an interesting experience.
Great, wonderful. All right. Well, I think, maybe we took some interesting things away from this little exercise. This is a exercise called Circle Stories, and it's taken from a kind of improv practice called Interplay that I learned years ago in Berkeley, California. And so, I just hope that you kind of, that some of the comments that people made reflected perhaps some of your experience. One of the big things is often not having control over the story. For some people, they had their object and they wanted now the group went a different way. And people noticed a certain amount of shyness or, difficulty coming up with things and things like that. So I hope this exercise, as well as that little video that we saw, points to some of the curious aspects of imagination. The first thing about imagination is that it's rather shy. We notice that. It's hard for most of us to be imaginative if we perceive that we're going to be judged or criticized. And for many of us, we don't even need the judgment of other people to shut down our imagination. We have a too well-developed, judgy part of our mind within us that's ready to stomp on any imaginative idea. And additionally, some of us are more successful at being imaginative and creative in groups than working solo, and vice versa. That may have been some of your experience in some of these circle story groups. Now, so the classic way to encourage creative imagination is through a technique called brainstorming, which I'm sure all of you have encountered somewhere. This technique was actually developed by an advertising executive in the late 1930s to come up with more creative ad ideas. People in a small group are encouraged to come up with lots and lots of creative ideas without doing any kind of critique or judging any of the ideas during the session. That comes later. But in recent years, some people have begun to question the effectiveness of brainstorming. It may be that some people just work better imagining things individually rather than in groups. And further, group work can have its own problems. Some people tend to dominate the conversation. Maybe some of you had that experience. Others may not get a chance to put their ideas out there in the group and their ideas are lost. So alternative techniques such as one called brain writing or electronic brainstorming have been developed to try to address these concerns by supporting individual as well as group creativity. These approaches oftentimes involve passing ideas from one person to the other around among individual participants, like online, who add their own ideas to the mix. But brainstorming and its variants are usually seen as business tools used to help us do more imaginative work. But do we always have to be using our imagination in pursuit of something? Has imagination been sucked into the Puritan work ethic? Does this mean that using our imagination, even for things like hobbies, mean that we always have to have some productive output? So if we create artwork, does it have to be for display? If we write poetry, does this mean we have to read it to a group? Our songs, do they have to be sung before an audience? I mean, I think of our little video, why you should make useless things, is a good answer to this question. We can certainly allow our imagination to expand beyond the small realm of productive and useful or even artistic things to a larger space. Our imagination, I think, flows more freely when we relieve it of the anxiety of having to get up on the stage and present to the world. I think it says something that the creator of that video, Simone Gertz, is a Swede and not an American or a Canadian. Quite possibly, she did not grow up with the Puritan ethic ingrained in her, as so many of us, certainly I did. So how can we let our imagination run free? How can we give it permission to be, well, useless? One of the ways I allow my imagination to run free is by daydreaming. Now, daydreaming has long been derided as a pointless activity. I mean, for many of us, what comes to mind is a memory of letting our mind wander during school and getting called out by the teacher for that. But maybe daydreaming is a positive thing. As part of the positive psychology movement, some researchers have been exploring the benefits of daydreaming. Letting our minds wander can bring joy, serenity, and even help us to be more creative. Sometimes, while relaxed in daydreaming, a creative solution might pop into our mind about some problem that's been bugging us. But we do need to be a little thoughtful in daydreaming. Picking the right time and place is important. Not good while driving. I do remember being lost in thought and driving right past the freeway exit and only having to go miles out of my way. Don't do that. These days, I will oftentimes encourage myself to daydream in the middle of the night. If I wake up having trouble to sleep, that's when I'll kind of direct my mind towards interesting and pleasant, even creative thoughts, and soon I nod off. But to do this daydreaming enjoyably, you need to be able to direct your thoughts. This means to avoid ruminating over bad past experiences or worrying about future problems. In the current political climate in the United States, particularly, and in the world in general, worrying about future problems is hard for me. I'm sure it's also true for many of you. And so sometimes my daydreaming can turn dark and stormy, and I find myself dreaming up imaginative responses to the horrible things that have been happening politically. And the ideas that come to my mind in these times are oftentimes pessimistic and destructive. And my heart of hearts knows that to carry them out would simply be adding fuel to the fire. I call the part of myself that comes up with these ideas Crazy Matt. Crazy Matt imagines revenge, destruction, Machiavellian victory. Sometimes Crazy Matt comes up with inventive, useful ideas, but not often. What kind of ideas does Crazy Matt imagine? Well, to be truthful, I'd rather not say here. But let me give you an example from the famous community activist Saul Alinsky. This one is actually kind of useful. Once he proposed a crazy and powerful idea to attack the endemic racism in Rochester, New York. And I quote, he said, "I suggested that we might buy 100 seats for one of Rochester's symphony concerts. We would select a concert in which the music was relatively quiet. The 100 blacks who would be given tickets would first be treated to a pre-concert dinner in the community, in which they would be fed nothing but baked beans, and lots of them. And then the people would go to the symphony hall with obvious consequences. Imagine the scene when the action began. The concert would be over before the first movement. If this be a Freudian slip, so be it." End quote. I understand that just the threat of this idea brought the city leaders to the negotiating table. If I allow my crazy, mad imagination to run, it does go to places far worse than this. I don't want that. So I try to direct my mind. One can learn to direct the mind, even the daydreaming mind, towards what one researcher calls thinking for pleasure. The invitation is this: simply think about things like favorite memories, fleshing them out with enjoyable details. Or maybe imagine an anticipated fun event, or maybe achieving some accomplishment. Or maybe visualize going on vacation with friends or family, people you love. And finally, we can use our imagination to amplify and deepen our own personal spirituality. The author and Catholic mystic Richard Rohr speaks of this. He suggests, and I quote, "Each of us has our own unique imaginarium, an unconscious worldview constructed by our individual and groups' experiences, symbols, archetypes, and memories. For example, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, Catholics, and Protestants live in quite different imaginaria. God comes to us in images that we can trust and believe, that have the inherent power to open our hearts. Spirituality tries to move beyond words to evoke our imaginaria at the unconscious level, where real change must first happen." End quote. So, as a person that doesn't quite fit into any of those categories, I still do believe I have a spiritual part in my mind, my own imaginarium, if you will, and perhaps you do too. Now, my imaginarium has been constructed over a lifetime of encountering and engaging with, adopting and sometimes rejecting spiritual ideas of many kinds. Now, it's not all rational and organized in there. I'm oftentimes holding several different incompatible beliefs in that imaginarium of my mind. And I think that's okay. I don't have a singular final answer to everything. That would be boring. But I'd rather let the ideas flow and play and see what might pop out. So in my imaginarium, the current theme is about spaciousness, aliveness. It's about complexity and mystery. It's that connection between everything in the universe, everything radiant with everything else. And Rohr goes on, I quote, "If your inner imaginarium is rich, intelligent, and not overly defended, you will never stop growing spiritually. My advice," he says, "read more poetry and literature, watch movies, listen to music, visit museums. The artist is a prophet, someone who helps us be self-critical and creative so that we don't stay stuck in the status quo. The prophet models and embodies a new way of thinking and being that allows us to imagine a larger, more inclusive way to live." End quote. And to Rohr's advice, I add my own not very surprising additional advice. Meditate or pray if you prefer. Turn inward into your mind and explore what comes up. So that's it. Nurture your imaginarium externally with poetry and literature, movies and art. And then turn inward, daydream, meditate, pray, and watch what you have planted in that spiritual part of your mind. Watch it grow and bloom. May it be so. So our closing hymn is "Find a Stillness." And again, this is a recording of Linda singing, helping us to sing this. And I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join us in singing.
Find a stillness, hold a stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence.
So may each of our imaginations flourish and grow like blooms, various in color and form, some bold, some variegated, some subtle in hue. That when brought together, we form a bouquet of such brilliance and beauty that together this arrangement of our imaginations is a wonder to behold, a most beautiful offering for the world. Blessed be.
Let us extinguish our chalice with these words, which we read together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we keep in our hearts and share with all the world.
Yesterday, all my travels seem so far away. Now it looks as true we're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Suddenly, I'm not half the man I used to be. There's a shadow hanging over me. Oh, yesterday came suddenly. Why she had to go, I don't know. She wouldn't say. I said something wrong. Now I long for yesterday. Yesterday, that was such an easy game to play. Now I need a place to hide away. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Why she had to go, I don't know. She wouldn't say. I said something wrong. Now I long for yesterday. Yesterday, that was such an easy game to play. Now I need a place to hide away. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Thank you so much, Stress.
Thanks again. Our worship is over. Our service begins. Go in peace and with purpose.